Welcome to another episode of TSW. This is the first time we are doing an in-person conversation. It's a new template. Hope you like it. Today we have someone who has appeared on Shark Tank, successfully appeared on Shark Tank, which means he has raised money as well. But what makes this founder special is that he is also an inventor, which is you don't hear about it a lot. So welcome Pulkit, welcome to TSW. How are you doing?
Thank you, Kul. Thank you for having me here. Doing very well.
So what's a day like for a founder? कैसा
Very unpredictable. So, in the morning, it starts with the first firefighting call, and uske baad you just have to take it from there. So it's like you have a strategy कि आज मेरे को ये करना है. These are the things that I need to work on a priority basis. And with the first call, everything is just a follow-up reaction because you're handling so many things. There's so much happening, and there's one variable that just determines how the dominoes will fall that day.
Okay. So this is something I should ask. Like, how did you come up with the idea of Proxgy?
So the idea of Proxgy started right in the middle of the first lockdown during the COVID pandemic in 2020. So we were all stuck in our homes, and we were restricted or restrained from going outside. But everyone had that wish or that itcha to experience the world as they used to experience before COVID, right? And that's where, in my last venture, we were dealing with providing transportation solutions to a lot of corporates. And the idea came that अब ट्रांसपोर्टेशन वैसे नहीं रहने वाला जैसे पहले होता था. Everyone is stuck at their homes. They will not be traveling physically. So how can we still make their lives better and ensure the maximum real world experience? So that's how we came up with the idea of Proxgy. So Proxgy basically comes from two words. One is proxy, which is a human proxy, and technology. So you combine a human proxy with technology and you get Proxgy. So if you think about a Uber or a Ola, it's basically a asset, physical asset like a car, 10-12 lakh rupees worth of car, and a gig worker who come to you if you book a Uber, right? Proxgy idea started with replacing that 10 or 12 lakh rupee asset with a smart IoT helmet, a smart helmet, and the same gig worker. And now, if you book a Proxgy, you don't have to travel, or you don't have the car doesn't have to come to you to travel. You're sitting here and we want to experience, say, a Damilano showroom in Ambience Mall. I just book a Proxy. A person, a gig worker who is around that area would get that booking and accept it. And once he does, the smart helmet that he's wearing basically has a 360-degree audio-video control, which I can do using my phone and a joystick. Or I could just use my phone in a VR mode, and sitting here, I could see left or right, and the view that the person, when he's walking through Ambience Mall per se, would change. So that's how it started. So we wanted to provide the metaverse experience, but in the real world.
Yeah. So I think metaverse was huge. Everybody was talking about metaverse. I think at least a couple of years ago. Sorry.
Right.
Can you tell us like some of the inventions you have done and patents? You also hold patents, which is crazy, right? Just give us a walkthrough of that.
So I've always been a product guy, and the first invention I did, it's hard to remember, but a few of the ones that come to the mind right now, one was a bed that I invented, which was called an earthquake protection bed. In fact, we discussed that when you were in your previous role. And the bed was capable of determining an earthquake in its initial stages, and if people are sleeping at night and there's an earthquake or calamity that strikes, it could deploy itself in a way that there would be a protective shield above the bed, and if there's any falling debris, it will just slide off, preventing the people who are sleeping on the bed from any harm. So that has potential of saving a lot of lives once put into production. But that's something that I invented, and the patents have been granted in US and India, but we still haven't moved it to mass production yet.
This brings me to the next question for Indian inventors. I firmly believe that Indians can invent, right? So for someone who is into inventions, who wants to build products, right? So, what are the challenges for them? Say, for instance, you had that earthquake bed, right?
Right.
Earthquake
Protection bed, yeah.
protection bed, right? So, for them to market it, to manufacture it, to scale it, even sales, and just to spread the
Right.
word around it, like what are the key challenges for Indian inventors?
A lot. There are a lot of challenges for someone who wants to do innovation at grassroots level and then take it to mass production and eventual scalability and visibility. The first one starts with the moment you have an idea. So ideas are dime a dozen. But the moment you have an idea, the first question that comes is whether you invest your time, energy, effort, money in building that, or just discard it as okay, ये तो आते रहते हैं, किसी और ने कर लिया होगा, कोई और कर लेगा. So that's something that you need to be cognizant about, whether you have that passion, that burning desire कि मेरे को ये जो idea है इसको आगे लेके जाना है. So that's how it starts. If you recognize and know that I want to work on this idea, build it up, scale it up, that's where the real hustle starts. Wherein you can think about an idea, but that bringing that from ideation to conceptualization to say a MVP, which is a minimum viable product, to mass production, to eventual sales and then servicing. I'm talking about products here. It's a long 2 to 3 year journey minimum if you want to do it right. And that's where a lot of people, a lot of inventors, they lose focus or they just they just get tired in the journey. And I've seen a lot of good people with good product ideas getting tired just too quickly.
I understand. So again, coming back to the talent, like again, as I said, I think Indians are like highly talented, and if you see across length and breadth of the country, you see so many innovative, so many amazing stuff that is happening. But do you see that there is this bit of stigma that Indians aren't creators; they don't create much. And for if you look at other industries, we are mostly a consumer market. In smartphones, it's mostly driven by companies that are not Indian, right? So, do you think there is this problem, there is this gap as well?
So I think not a problem, but a curve, a learning curve for us, because the evolution of our parents or the generations that have succeeded us, in fact preceded us, we have always been more of a service based economy, wherein we have been trained to do jobs and create or offer services. The inventor mindset would actually require you to be more of a disruptor, wherein you have to first give up that lalach of a service or a job, then have some free time and then ideate and self realize, okay, this is what is needed and now I need to get onto this journey, which maybe or most probably none of my seniors or my parents or someone in my family has done before. And there would be a lot of learning curves and challenges which I need to pass through.
Now, one of the things you mentioned about Proxy and the early days of Proxy as well was the IoT bit, right? Internet of Things. And I think a few years ago, a couple of years ago, at least couple of years ago, everybody was talking about IoT is going to be big, the 5G is coming, the interconnectivity will be better. But the kind of IoT penetration or the presence I would have hoped, like in my like homes, I would see
Right.
it. But we don't see it. We don't see so many connect. There are few here and there, and maybe at select places, but we don't see the mainstream becoming a mainstream.
Adoption.
Yeah. So, what is your view on this? What are the challenges? Why it could not take off the way everybody was predicting it?
I think I'll still not write it off. It's taking off for sure. If you talk about fans that we used to use in our homes 10 years ago compared to the smart fans that most of us now have in our homes, with the BLDC motors, remote controls, a lot of modes, that's a indication of where the things are moving in the IoT phase or a IoT ecosystem. Obviously, things have been slow, but considering the volume that we have had, considering the mass consumption that we portray or the mass consumption that we represent, I think eventually it will catch up. So right now, obviously, for any technology to take importance or take main stage, there has to be some people who have to adopt it, early adopters, and then there's the mass adoption and the laggards, right? So IoT, I believe, still is an early adoption stage, wherein a lot of people who want to experiment with new devices, new goods, are going and being attracted towards the devices which were conventionally non smart devices, but now have been converted into a smart system.
But it's very fragmented if you see the applications. Why do you think that? And there's not really big names in fragments. We see one aspect. Even in the enterprise section, there is connect IoTs are still being used and extensively being used, but you don't see like a major label or major name that is appearing, right? So what do you think is the gap over there?
I think names have started coming up, but again, it's an evolutionary process.
Correct.
It
Correct.
takes time. Hardware or a new product, especially, has a
Mhm.
multiple stages of evolution before it
Mhm.
becomes a mass product.
Mhm.
Early adopters give their feedback, which is
Mhm.
incorporated into the product. Then there's a next wave of people who try it out, and
Mhm.
that's how products actually or usually evolve, and the appeal also increases. 5 years down the line, I don't think we would be talking about IoT not being adopted. It would just be how much, where to target, and how much cost delta is there between a non IoT product and an IoT product.
Correct. This also like a very anecdotal discussion which I want to have is if you remember Google Glass, it came like years ago, and everybody said, and it didn't take off at that time,
Right.
right? But if you see now, still the same concept is being used by say Meta for their Ray-Ban glasses and everything. Do you think some products are not still ready for the mass consumption?
Yes, and my point exactly that when Google Glass came out, the cost was very prohibitive. You normal person could not afford a Google Glass or could not justify the spend on Google Glass for the utility it provided. And then there were lesser applications which actually made you take the maximum juice out of the hardware. Even if the hardware is good, you need software on top of it so that you can use it well. So it was an evolution process. Even if Google did not do it, Microsoft is doing that with HoloLens. Meta is doing it with their Ray-Ban glasses, and Apple has just come up with their Vision Pro. So that concept is continuing, evolving,
Correct.
and until it becomes a mass product. Similar with electric vehicles, they have been in discussion since decades, but now is the time that they have come in vogue. So it takes that time of adoption, perfection. There was time a EV could not travel 30-40 kilometers on a single charge. Now we're talking about 800 to 1000 kilometers. And that's where people keep on taking notice, and the product also keeps on evolving.
Now I'll ask you about something which I've been very curious about. What is it like appearing on Shark Tank? This is the first time I'm face to face with a person who has successfully secured funding from Shark Tank. What is the experience like? And does it like give some sort of a spike in interest from say the industry, VCs and everything? What is the attention? Is it like momentarily, or is it does it help in a long term? Give me that anecdote, please.
Appearing on Shark Tank. So we at Proxgy were on Shark Tank in season 1. So we had zero clue of what to expect and what not to expect. We were the guinea pigs on which all the experiments were being done, but it was a good experience. Being there opens you up or makes you more confident about a lot of things that on a daily basis we usually tend to ignore. But even after that, after talking to the sharks and getting some of them on board, the experience and the recognition that you get once you are on national television, millions of viewers watching you, definitely gives you and the business huge advantage, a competitive advantage and marketing advantage, saving you at least a few $1 million, if not more, of marketing expenses and costs. So for us, being on Shark Tank was even more important because it was a pivotal moment where the model that I discussed with you, the B2C model, the business to direct B2C model,
Correct.
we had to basically pivot from a B2C model to a B2B model, or we pivoted from a B2C to B2B after being on Shark Tank. So the funny thing is, we were selected to be on Shark Tank because we were a B2C company, but after we came on Shark Tank, people saw the potential of the products that we created at that point of time in early 2022, and we started getting queries and calls from a lot of government departments, a lot of Fortune 500 companies asking us or inviting us to their office and to give demos and discuss whether these products can be used in the industrial use case. And that's where we, along with the sharks who invested in the company and our other investors, took a conscious call that the invisible hand of market, as we call it, is directing us towards a B2B play, wherein what we had invented could be modified to solve a much bigger problem of connecting millions and up to a billion plus workers who are working in industrial environments. So, till date, if we talk about software engineers or white collar workers, they have tools like Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, Zoom calls, Slack, Jira, Atlassian. All these tools have given these software engineers and white collar workers of the world the tech prowess to remotely coordinate, collaborate, and work with each other. But if we try and think of a single such technology that gives this tech ecosystem to the industrial workers of the world, people who are working in oil and gas fields, mines, refineries, policing, manufacturing, we'll fail to come up with a single such solution that gives these capabilities that have existed for more than a decade to these strata or this janta, which is 78% of the global workforce, representing 1 billion plus people. The reason for this, when we came on Shark Tank and then we were invited to all these companies, big names, and we got to experience or know the problems and how these products that we had created could solve them. The prime most reason for this was all the tools that we discussed, the Atlassians to Slacks to Zoom calls of the world, have just been designed and developed for two devices. One is a laptop and the second is a mobile phone. But if we think about an industrial worker, say a miner who is working like hundreds of feet below the ground and in environments that are highly risky and combustible, he doesn't have that privilege of taking out a laptop or a mobile phone and calling his supervisor to give him update or to ask some queries with him, right? Similarly with oil and gas, construction, manufacturing. And that's where these tools have not been able to address the industrial ecosystem. And what we had invented, like a smart safety helmet, a smart cap, a smart lock, these fit in very well, basically replacing or becoming the human touch points, wherein these people could now loop in or become a part of the tech ecosystem, because there was zero resistance to change. Everyone in these environments is either using a hard hat, a normal dumb safety helmet, or a cap as a headgear or a protective gear. So what we did was we made those headgears much more intelligent and connected, which as a part of our industrial IoT initiative. And that's where these people, say worker who's servicing a windmill 100 feet above ground, he needs some queries answered or some issues resolved. He's all strapped in, wearing gloves, PPE kits, cannot take out a mobile phone or a laptop at that height. He's wearing a smart helmet like this one. He just taps a button and he's connected to the supervisor halfway around the world, or some expert that could guide him better in servicing that windmill. So those are the use cases that we have been able to address with our inventions, and we are just getting started on that path.
Okay, so now I've understood the rationality behind the pivot also and everything. So now we have products also, and I think you are the best person to do any product demonstration right now. So you mentioned about this helmet, right? So can you just explain what it does?
Sure.
How it works and who can use it, right?
Right. This one is what we call a smart hat, wherein we have opened this up for you for a demo, wherein this one has dual cameras in front, a single camera in back, a removable battery system. This comes out, this entire panel. And then you have a SOS switch and a removable gas sensor. So all this combined, you basically are addressing multiple industries, multiple use cases with the tactile buttons that you have. Like you have 3 tactile buttons on each side. So what it does is, say, engineer working in an engine room or machine room is being exposed to high noise pollution, and there are guidelines for such exposures, right? So say OSHA guidelines tell us that over 90 decibel exposure for 30 minutes is harmful. So the speakers that we have in the smart hat, which are just over your ear of the worker who's wearing it, they are recording the exposure on a regular basis, and whenever it's about to breach, you are pre-warned about it, and every exposure is being monitored and being logged for future analysis, insurance purposes, safety purposes, and a few others. So basically, this smart hat becomes your MacBook on the field. It provides you safety. Safety is paramount. No one wants blood on their hands. It provides you connectivity, no matter the environment. So it has 4G, 5G, LoRaWAN, Wi-Fi, UWB, and a few other communication protocols. And it increases your productivity with AI assistance, a camera at back, dual camera in front, and real-time AI analytics and all. So that's what the smart hat does for the industrial worker.
So this is you manufacture in India as well?
Yeah, so everything that we invent, the firmware, the PCB, the schematics, assembly, it's either contractual or in-house.
Okay. And the data is sent back using like local
4G,
network.
5G, Wi-Fi, and in case there's no network available, we also have LoRaWAN, in which batch upload can be done, or a mesh can be created so that signals basically hop from one device to another.
Got it. And just also, what cameras are there?
So we have multiple options of cameras, including some thermal imaging cameras based on the use case. So in case it's for defense and military, there's a thermal imaging option that can be done. The entire shell could be made in Kevlar to ensure it meets the standards. So right one, this is Type 1 Zone C standard, which is industrial standards for any safety related regulations and workers working in such industries, hazardous industries, right? The second product that we invented, again a very interesting product, is this little device called the sleeve. So you would not have seen a device like this because we basically invented it. So this has the capability of sliding over any cap like this and making it a smart cap.
Okay.
So this one has a single camera or a dual camera option, then 4 tactile switches, which in case you want to integrate dial 100 or dial 112, a cop is wearing this instead of a body cam, which mostly come from China as of today. So this one is a completely made in India solution, wherein wherever you're looking, this moves with you. The problem with a typical body cam is, say you're wearing it on your chest and you looking on left or right, and it still gives you a very obscure chest level view. This one actually moves with you, has AI on edge, has dual speakers, GPS and all, and you could customize the buttons to dial 100 or dial 112. In US it could be dial 911, taking a picture, connecting directly to the central control room. Say there's some accident that has happened and you need to, or one needs to ensure how many ambulances need to be dispatched or what is the status there. A live feed could be sent from the head of a single cop who's on site, and a lot of damage control or could be could be controlled or mitigated. So think about warehousing, cash management services, security personnel. You cannot have CCTVs everywhere, right? But the person, a security person, wherever he is, he's now connected with the sleeve, and at least his safety is also monitored in case these are hazardous environments. So these are able to detect any falls or any accidents or any non-movement for a long duration.
Correct. Is it like just for the cap, or can it be used for other purposes as well?
So right now the design has been done so the design is done in a way that it can fit any cap, be it a baseball cap or a safety bum cap or any other cap. So this becomes a universal converter of a cap into a smart cap. But going forward, we are also working on a few devices or a few inventions wherein we reduce the size of the sleeve. The product we call the product a sleeve. We reduce the size of the sleeve and make it compatible with your gloves, and also be capable of being put on your shoulder. So even if you're not wearing a cap, you can just slide out the sleeve and put it on your shoulder, or if you're doing some scanning in warehouse,
like you can strap it on wherever you want.
on your glove also,
Okay.
so a smart glove basically.
Is it always recording? Like once
No, so you can totally customize the use case. It could be your supervisor calling you, or you wanting to connect with the supervisor. Two-way communication, one-way communication, all AI on edge, wherein whatever is being recorded gets transcribed. So all that options and you have on the SaaS dashboard that we get.
It's also how cricket umpires were.
That camera actually is an outdated technology wherein if you look closely, the camera on the umpire's cap has a wire that goes all the way
Correct.
into the pocket where there's a battery pack, and then that sends the feed to the pavilion kind of control room, right?
Correct.
So this one is a totally hands-free connected device, like a much more advanced version of the use case that the cricket umpires are currently using.
Okay, so what's the battery life like?
So this works for around over 8 hours on a single charge. It also has USB fast charging.
So I can think of like many applications as a journalist, like someone who is doing some ground reporting or is trying to capture something, he just straps it on. And also for say exam vigilance.
True.
When there's so many things going on,
especially with what we're seeing nowadays.
Yeah,
right?
correct. And it makes a lot of sense as well. So that's very interesting. So when will is it like commercial right now? Is it being deployed somewhere by someone?
So we already have deployed a few of these across multiple industries as paid POCs, proof of concept, which have been a success. Now we are moving to mass production. So the locator, which is a third device, again alerts you of any tampering done to the goods that you're transporting, be it on trains or wagons or containers or some other transport mode. This one has the capability of alerting you, ensuring geolocation, geofencing, and recording various parameters like vibration, temperature, speed, the status of the shipment. So all that the locator is able to do.
ये कार ये उस vehicle में install होता है, correct?
व्हीकल के किसी भी व्हीकल के पीछे लग सकता है ये इन देयर लॉक चैनल and unlock करे. So this can be unlocked using simple SMS or RFID card or a backend. बिना admin approval के ये unlock नहीं हो सकता. If someone tries to tamper with it, it sends a real-time alert and also connects with the nearest police station.
But it's not a lock, right? It's
a lock plus a tracking device. So one, it's a lock, so it is capable of withstanding over 200 kg of dead weight. And then it also has a 15,000 mAh battery, which lasts around 8 to 10 days. When we're talking about examinations, this one, to ensure there's no hanky-panky happening on the way, and for invigilation, the sleeve, the lock and the audio pod are already in mass production. The sleeve and the smart hat are currently MVPs that have been POC'd and approved. Now we are moving into mass production in the coming couple of months.
मैं आपको इस पे एक anecdotal story सुनाना था जिस इस पे चूँकि इस पे ट्रैकिंग भी कर सकते हैं वगैरह. तो उन्होंने इसका क्रैक ये निकाला कि उन्होंने वो जीपीएस का मॉड्यूल निकाला, एक बंदे को साइकिल में बिठाया और उसको उसी रूट पे भेजा और फिर वो ट्रक कहीं और, वो व्हीकल कहीं और गया और प्रोडक्ट ऐसे निकल गया.
ये दिस विल ओवरकम दैट लूप होल बिकॉज आपका जो क्लोज कंटेनर है, बी इट अ ट्रक और अ टेम्पो और एनी अदर व्हीकल, यू कुड जस्ट लॉक इट विद दिस. सो अगर और उसको कोई अनलॉक करता है तो आपके पास पूरा ऑडिट ट्रेल है, किसने अनलॉक करा, किसके आईडी से अनलॉक हुआ, कब हुआ, कितनी देर के लिए हुआ, कहाँ हुआ. सो ऑल दैट gets ensured and you have a much safer solution for ensuring these tracking and basically making sure that no mishap happens like we have been seeing in the recent. So we talk about examinations, talk about custom department transporting some goods from one place to another and they getting pilfered in between, or talk about any expensive goods from one port to another or one city to another. This takes care of that, including oil containers, which oil marketing companies can use for when they transport fuel or crude from the depots to the petrol pumps.
So is it already like being deployed somewhere?
It is. Over 2,000 of such devices have been deployed in India, and we are currently working on fulfilling over 10,000 orders.
So, if you don't mind me asking, I really want to understand what would be the cost of this, right?
That's very interesting, because as a startup we have innovated on the financial side also, wherein one is a capex, which is a capital expenditure for a client.
Correct,
The
correct.
second is opex, which you don't have to pay the cost upfront. So you could it's basically leasing it out over a 3-year period, and then you divide the cost. So if we say uh, 20,000 is the cost for this device, and then you use it for 3 years, so that effectively comes out to around 6,500, 7,000 rupees.
Correct.
That 7,000 rupees you divide into or 6,000 rupees, for the sake of mathematics, we divide it for 12 months, so that comes out to be 500 rupees. That 500 rupees you divide with 30 days when you're transporting goods, and it's less than 20 rupees per day. So that's even lesser than the cost of the wax or the plastic seals that you use, which are easily breakable or hackable, and you have zero control or zero audit trail. So this one, with as little as 20 rupees per day, you can ensure a end-to-end trail, end-to-end trackability, and tamper alerts.
Great. One more question, and I want to understand, since you are been into tech for so many years, what is your understanding of AI? Do you see AI also getting integrated within your products at some point? And how do you, first of all, how do you see AI? And you can talk about the use case little later. But so, what is your understanding of AI, especially since the Gen AI thing that has happened?
So not Gen AI per se, but we are already integrating a lot of AI in our tools and products. So some of that is on the edge, which is you don't need connectivity for it to run, which includes fall detection and lone worker monitoring. So if you're lone worker working in, say, a kilometer radius in an oil field, and something happens, or so, because the helmet is capable of complete body parameter monitoring and environmental monitoring, so a predictive alerts can be issued depending on the readings that are being processed and the AI running behind it. So that is something that is on the edge. And then we have a lot of AI trained models that are running on the back end, processing the data that is coming up, being generated, and learning from it, and then helping with their inputs. Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to understand a little bit about your future plans. I was just going through news that you are going to raise money and everything. What are the next few months for Proxgy? What are your plans?
So for us, this year we want to do more and more product innovation, wherein we have a lot of patents that have been granted. We want to bring them into conceptualization and mass production, while also ensuring the goods or the products that have already been in mass production, they become a steady stream of income, so that the cash is generated from those streams, which can be deployed into new research and development. So that's one. But also at the same time, we are applying for a lot of certification, so that these products could be like the Make in India products could now be exported internationally to multiple countries, and ensuring the Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India dream is at least we are contributing something to it.
आपको जाने से पहले एक लास्ट सवाल मैं ये पूछ रहा हूँ, जो भी हिंदुस्तान हैं, जो फाउंडर्स हैं, जिनको है, जो आपने बताया कि वो कमिट नहीं कर पाते हैं, उस चीज़ पे फोकस नहीं कर पाते हैं, तो अगर आपको एक आसान अपनी लैंग्वेज को एक मैसेज भेजना होगा कि अगर आप, क्योंकि आई थिंक यू आर अ ग्रेट रोल मॉडल फॉर दैट, उसके लिए उन लोगों के लिए, और जो भी लड़के जो भी ट्राई कर रहे हैं कुछ नया इनोवेट करना, कुछ क्रिएट करना चाहते हैं स्केल पे, मे बी इंडिया से खुद कुछ एक नया ग्लोबल प्रोडक्ट भी निकल, वैसे नए यंग लोगों के लिए आपका क्या मैसेज रहेगा?
Firstly, I think I am not a great role model right now. It's everyone has a journey, right? I started my journey a bit early, or maybe when I started to where I've come, someone is just at the start of the journey. A few people that I adore and admire have traveled this journey a long way. So I think everyone who's willing to do this and is passionate about it, the journey has a lot of surprises, good, and a few ups and downs. for them, but it's going to be worthwhile. Secondly, not just one product. I think multiple global products, and we have already we started seeing that happening. Multiple global products India se nikal sakte hain. And if you are an inventor and you really have your heart and soul into something, don't give up. Perseverance is one thing that will ensure success like nothing else.
All right. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you. It
I
was
hope
lovely talking to you.
that's all right. Thank you.